book that convinced me that Christianity was bogus.
Yeah.
So, I really recommend his books and tapes and anything because he was a Christian too, and he gave up Christ after, and I went back and read the Bible again, and I thought, my gosh, there's so much that doesn't mesh here, so many contradictory things and
stuff you'd read before and didn't recall it.
Well, because he says because you're reading it one book at a time. When you put the books all together and you look at it, maybe part of me thought some of this stuff doesn't make sense, but once I looked at it all at once, we said, well, how many women were at the tomb, and what day was Jesus crucified, and rose from the dead, and what about all these zombies that came out of the grave and nobody seems to have said, if you saw 500 people coming out of a grave, wouldn't there be a big newspaper report? Nobody reports on this stuff. A man rising from the dead, and there's nothing. So, sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. I was just going to say we really appreciate you calling in to share that. It's always good to hear from other people who have managed to free themselves from religion as well. And I agree with you on Bart Ehrman. I recommend his books quite often. So I'm actually, it's nice to hear. I mean, I don't know, how it affected the rest of your life, but this idea that you have been depression free and that it was a, morning realization that was rather nonchalant, I think is important because I can't identify the day that I first identified as an atheist, but I do remember the period of time, and it was incredibly liberating. And I do agree that this hellfire and damnation stuff is not just a tool to keep people believing, but it's a particularly vile one because I think it promotes, it damages individuals' mental health and encourages things like depression.
Yeah, I agree totally because that's what happened to me, and I really believe it was hellfire all those years, even though I didn't identify it as hellfire. That I was afraid. Because there was another thing about religion is the fear. You can't live up to it. Nobody can do it. I used to have fear because, I'm not tithing.
Yep.
Or I sinned again. There I go cussing again. Now I think this is just normal stuff. We do things that are wrong, and now I laugh at a lot of the things I do. Okay, so I can't stop cussing now. I mean, I'm not even going to try anymore. I can stop cussing when I'm in a with a group of people, and they kind of religious. I still have religious people in my family.
Yeah, it's one of the things of religion where many of them have gone to extreme lengths to make the normal, everyday actions of humans something that you should feel guilty for, whether it be sex or language or anything like that. And I find it so absolutely vile and hateful that it's one of the reasons that we do what we do.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, so thank you very much.
Thanks for calling, Deborah. Appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
We've got, as a reminder, and we've got Luke, but hang on a second. Luke, as a reminder, after the show is over, we get together and go to dinner at Threadgill's, 301 West Riverside Drive. And for those of you who missed the announcements earlier on, this is the last week of 90-minute shows for now. We're going to be shifting to hour-long shows. There will not be a show next week, October 3rd. We're being preempted by the Mormons, but October 10th, there will be a show. We'll be in the new studio, and it'll be an hour show. So the phone number will be
starting
changing.
At the same time?
Starting at the same time, I think. We can double check, but yes, starting at the same time. So it's 4:30 to 5:30, and there'll be a new phone number. So make sure you tune in the live stream for that, or if you're out of town, or watch us live. But everything else is still the same. Luke, are you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, Luke.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I follow you guys a lot on YouTube and stuff, but really like you guys' show. It's great. I'm an atheist myself, and I debate with theists and agnostics and all that a lot, trying to just expand knowledge and make sure that my beliefs are tested and all that. I have a topic that I wanted to talk about today and see what your guys' thoughts on it are. All right. So people, humans, everything is increasingly complex chemical reactions, right? The brain is just basically chemical reactions happening to create a consciousness. And I have trouble when I'm trying to debate with someone or trying to talk with a theist, getting over the fact that it can be just a chemical reaction that's creating a consciousness, and that's how we know what we know, that's how we think. And they always fall back on the thought of a soul and the thought of someone gave us this consciousness, and that's how our shell is, happens. I was wondering how you guys get over the fact that you have to, at some point, agree that your thoughts are just chemical reactions in your brain happening.
How do we get over that fact? You mean how we defend it in an argument, or how we live with it?
I guess how you live with it, and
it's not a problem for me.
I guess how you could see someone else. You know what I mean? Like when somebody else has to get over the fact that, and I guess it's get over the fact. Just live with the fact that there is a margin of error. You could everything in life could just be neurons firing. That's it. It could be all simulated. It could be the Matrix, quote unquote.
Oh,
correct.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's the one thing I admit to taking on faith, is that the universe actually exists and is not just a illusion put on for my benefit. I know I can't prove that, but I'm comfortable assuming that that's not the case, because otherwise I'd have no basis for caring about anything if it was all just an illusion.
If you're kind of addressing going from the position of believing that you have some kind of soul to the position of accepting that you don't, how do you deal with that? To me, it's kind of like if you lived your whole life and somebody told you that you had an invisible third arm, and then you realize that you don't have an invisible third arm. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's like being disappointed that you didn't win the lottery.
Right.
Yeah. All right, I get it. I mean, I understand what you guys are saying. I was just wondering what you guys' thought on the whole. Like, how can you trust what you're thinking if you are a slave to chemical reactions in your brain?
Let's suppose that our consciousness was some kind of supernatural, spooky thing that it takes over our bodies and makes us dance around. I mean, how is that any better? How come some invisible, spooky thing is so much more trustworthy than chemical reactions?
I understand. I understand that a theist would say it's because your soul is you're manipulated by this benevolent, awesome being, which obviously I don't believe that it's benevolent.
A benevolent, awesome being could do all. I mean, but a benevolent thing could do all kinds of stuff to you for your own good, right? And it could still be a pack of lies.
Right.
Religion is all about lying to people for their own good.
Right.
I mean, you could be in much the same way that you could be a brain in a vat or an individual in a matrix. You could be a soul in a soul testing environment by some. You haven't avoided the problem at all.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it is just sidestepping a little bit. Thanks, guys, for your time. I didn't want to run up too much, but yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Luke. I will do my normal or my new normal quick take on why the soul, as it's generally portrayed, is an utterly untenable hypothesis. And it's because everything that we know about who we are is limited and identifiable in the brain. And the research that we've been doing, if you look up V.S. Ramachandran, for example, there's the good example of the split brain patients where they develop two entirely different personalities, one being an atheist, one being a Christian. They have different likes. They communicate differently. So when that happens, when we split that brain, did we split a soul in half? Did we create a new soul? And the math of that soul doesn't work out. Also, brains have been reset by trauma to where they have an utterly different personality. If somebody was saved and then they suffer some dramatic trauma, are they now unsaved? It's absurd. When everything we know about who we are dies when we die. Nobody's ever demonstrated anything that would even lead one to suspect that there's a part of us that continues. And by the way, if it's just a part of us, it's not us. My brain is is the producer of my, who I am, my personality, my likes, my preferences, etc. How much of me could possibly survive if we know that this, physical process is actually creating that?
Well, I'm a transhumanist, so I kind of disagree with you. I think that if you can duplicate the process that is going on inside my brain perfectly, then you've exactly duplicated me.
And I would agree
but
that
that's
you've
a whole
exactly
separate,
duplicated me.
That's a whole separate
but it's
discussion.
not me.
Yeah, I think it is.
Anyway.
Depends on what you want to identify with.
Yeah. Anyway, we're way off topic there, Luke.
That's cool. No, that's basically what I was wanting to talk about anyway.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Sure. Thanks for the call. As a reminder, you can put that thing back up that Frank's shown twice real quick. We won.
Yay.
The Atheist Experience was voted by our viewers, by the public in general, as the best public access TV show in Austin by the Austin Chronicle. And so we wanted to thank everybody for that. There's the banner we got for it. We're going to leave it down here at the studio. And we'll show it probably from time to time while we gloat over the fact that we absolutely rock. But thanks everybody who voted. I appreciate it. There's a lot of work that goes into the show, and most of it is not done by me. The co-hosts do more work than I do, and the people behind the scenes who do the setup and keep the show alive do much more work than I do. So I was really happy that the producers went down to pick up that award, because they are a huge part of what makes this show the best.
Mm.
We are the best.
Mm.
Take that, Alex Jones. We've got Ed here in Austin. How are you, Ed?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good.
Well, I was going to talk about my own personal experience with pain management and the relaxation protocol, and apply it to something that Pat was talking about, her spiritual experience when she meditated.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that I've personally experienced, going in myself, in my mind, my body, and actually helping myself, relieving myself of pain, and through relaxation. There's very little difference between what I think people are talking about when they say relaxation and when they say meditation. The relaxation, people just don't like the religious connotations that go along with meditation, is basically what it is. But scientists are, and the medical profession are, somewhat reluctantly in some sense, in the Western sense, but they are starting to look at this type of how our mind can help our bodies overcome illness and pain and discomfort and stuff like that.
Sure, and we've looked at hypnosis, for example, as, anesthetic or other things like that.
Right.
Yeah,
and I really thought that, just a couple of points real quick.
Yeah.
I thought Jeff said something very interesting a minute ago about the spooky powers, and that how is the idea of this spooky thing out there more comforting than the idea of a chemical reaction in our body. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, I agree with you guys on some stuff, but we're different as day and night for the most part. But I think that's very interesting. I think we're at the dawning of a new age, paradigm-shifting thing going on, and